It had been 5 years since I married Alex. He was everything I thought I could have asked for: caring, reliable, and loyal. His warm, steady presence had been a comfort, like a cozy, familiar sweater, and his sense of responsibility meant that he always took care of us. Our life together was stable, predictable, and good. We had a neat little house with a tidy yard, regular Friday movie nights, and a quiet routine that filled our days. But somewhere along the way, the initial spark of love, the thrill, excitement, and sense of adventure had faded like the colors in a favorite old photograph. Our days blended together, filled with responsibilities and routines. Between the household chores, work commitments, and my husband's frequent business trips, we slowly drifted apart. He became more engrossed in work, and his business travels grew longer and more frequent, leaving me feeling like I was living with a visitor rather than a partner. His calls were brief, just check-ins about the kids or the house. When he was home, he seemed drained, his attention always elsewhere, as though we'd slipped to the background of his life. Each evening, I'd look across the table at him, but it felt as though he was 1,000 miles away. We barely talked about anything beyond the day-to-day necessities, and I began to wonder if he even noticed my presence. Our conversations lacked warmth, our laughs were rare, and the sense of being truly seen and cherished felt like a memory from another time. I started feeling trapped, like I was moving through the days on a loop: wake up, manage the house, go to work, sleep, and repeat. I missed the sense of aliveness that used to be there, the spark that made everything feel so much more vibrant. I'd catch myself daydreaming, wondering what it would feel like to break free, just for a moment, to experience something new, something thrilling. I couldn't shake the thought of what it might be like to have a one-night stand, a fleeting escape from the monotony. It wasn't so much about finding love, but rediscovering that feeling of excitement, of being wanted, of feeling something outside of the dull, predictable cycle I was caught in. One evening, while my husband was away on a business trip, my friend Sarah called and invited me to a party. She knew I had been feeling overwhelmed with the kids and the usual routines, and she urged me to take a break, get dressed up, and come out for a change. "You deserve this," she insisted, reassuring me that the house help could handle the kids for one night. It felt like forever since I had done anything just for myself, so I hesitantly agreed. As I got ready, I felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. I put on a dress that had been buried in the back of my closet, the one I used to wear when I still went out often. I even applied a bit of makeup and brushed out my hair, looking at myself in the mirror, almost not recognizing the person staring back at me. The last time I dressed up like this felt like a distant memory, back when my life was less about schedules and routines. When I arrived at the party, I was shy and out of place at first. The music was loud, and the laughter and chatter of people mingling filled the room. I felt like everyone was watching me, but they were, of course, absorbed in their own conversations. Sarah handed me a drink and guided me through the crowd, introducing me to her friends and helping me settle in. Little by little, the warmth of the gathering and the friendly faces around me melted away my nervousness. I started to loosen up, laughing at jokes, joining in conversations, and even swaying a little to the music. The vibrant atmosphere, the flashing lights, and the cheerful smiles surrounding me made me feel alive and connected in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. It was like rediscovering a part of myself I thought I'd lost, someone who enjoyed life, someone who could relax and have fun without feeling guilty. As the night continued, I found myself genuinely happy to be there, letting go of all the worries that usually weighed me down. That's when I met James. He was standing by the bar, tall and relaxed, with an easy smile that seemed to light up his whole face. He laughed freely, his deep voice warm and inviting, as he chatted with people around him. There was an air of calm confidence about him, the kind that makes you feel at ease just by being nearby. I don't know what it was, but something about him drew me in. Maybe it was the way his dark eyes sparkled with genuine interest, or the way he listened intently, as though nothing else in the room mattered. I took a sip of my wine, feeling the coolness of the glass in my hand as I tried to act casual. But when he looked my way, something inside me fluttered. His gaze held mine for a moment, and he walked over with that same warm smile, introducing himself. He asked about my life, what I liked, and what made me feel alive. The music and voices around us faded into the background as we talked. With each question, I found myself opening up in ways I hadn't in a long time, talking about things I usually kept to myself. I could feel my guard slipping away, bit by bit, and in that moment, it felt surprisingly good. As the night deepened, the hours seemed to slip away unnoticed, like sand falling through my fingers. The dim lights cast a warm glow around us, softening the edges of everything, making it feel like we were in our own world, tucked away from reality. We laughed easily, voices blending into the soft hum of music and chatter. James listened intently to every story I shared, nodding, smiling, his eyes never straying. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years, as if every word I said mattered, as if I mattered. Eventually, I glanced at my phone and was surprised to see how late it had become. Noticing the slight sway in my step and perhaps the haziness in my eyes, James offered to drive me home. At first, I hesitated, but his steady, reassuring gaze eased my concerns. I agreed, grateful for his thoughtfulness. The drive home was filled with laughter and easy conversation, drifting from one topic to another with the same lightness we'd found inside. We passed quiet, empty streets lined with dimly lit buildings and shadowed trees, all softened by the cool night air that seeped through the open windows. The scent of fresh earth and faint hints of flowers from nearby gardens mixed with the coolness, making everything feel fresh and alive. As he pulled into my driveway, a gentle silence settled over us. We both stayed, neither one making a move to end the night just yet. We sat there, gazing out at the stars, wrapped in the stillness of the moment. Then, almost in a whisper, James turned to me, his voice soft and steady, and asked, "Are you happy?" The question caught me off guard, stirring up a well of emotions I thought I had buried long ago. I found myself hesitating, my heart pounding as he looked into my eyes, sensing the pain I had hidden so deeply. He leaned closer, his gaze warm and intense, and in that moment, every lonely night, every forgotten dream came rushing back. When his lips met mine, it was like lighting a match in the darkness, and I responded with a passion I hadn't felt in years, returning his kiss with the hunger of someone starved for connection. His hands moved gently, sending sparks through my skin, and I felt myself letting go, allowing the moment to unfold without thought. I reached for him, and with a quiet urgency, I lowered the zipper, letting my hands explore what lay beneath. He responded in kind, adjusting the seat back, settling himself comfortably, his breathing deep and slow, as if savoring every sensation. The air inside the car felt thick, charged with anticipation, and I let myself get lost in it. When it felt right, I moved closer, positioning myself over him, and in that intimate moment, I felt alive in a way I hadn't for so long. Our bodies moved together, a rhythm both familiar and foreign, as we connected on a level deeper than I could have imagined. Each second stretched, and for those precious moments, nothing else existed, no worries, no past, just us in that space. He was gentle and considerate, his touch tender yet steady, filling a void within me I hadn't even realized was there. The world outside faded away as we came together, and I allowed myself to fully feel everything I had been holding back for so long. It was like stepping outside myself, watching as I crossed the line I had once thought sacred. For the first time in ages, I felt truly free, embracing a moment that would linger in my memory long after the night had passed. After what felt like forever, we were done. The car was filled with a heavy silence, the kind that presses down on you, leaving only the sound of our breathing. We exchanged a brief, silent goodbye. No words, just a look that held a mixture of sadness, guilt, and finality. I felt a sinking weight in my chest as I slowly walked to the door, every step echoing in the stillness. Just as my hand reached for the doorknob, it turned, and the door unlocked from the other side. Standing there was my husband. The hallway light spilled into the room, casting a shadow over his face, but even in the dim light, I could see his expression. His eyes were wide, reflecting a deep confusion, a raw shock, and something deeper, hurt so intense it seemed to reach his core. It was like the ground had crumbled beneath him, and he was left struggling to make sense of what he had just witnessed. My heart shattered as I realized he had seen everything, had watched as I betrayed him in the worst way. I opened my mouth, trying to find words, to explain, to apologize, but nothing came. My throat felt tight, and my mind was blank, consumed by a mix of panic and remorse. His gaze met mine one last time, and in that single look, I saw years of trust, love, and memories come crashing down. His eyes, once filled with warmth, were now filled with unbearable pain. He held my gaze for a moment as if searching for something that might make this less real, less hurtful, but there was nothing to be found. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, hollow and numb. The next morning, I woke up feeling a wave of crushing guilt and shame. My chest felt tight, my heart pounding heavily as the memory of what had happened sank in. The image of his face lingered in my mind, the shock, the hurt, the confusion. In the days that followed, our home felt empty and strange, like all the warmth had been drained out of it. The cozy feeling that once wrapped around us was gone, replaced by a cold silence that settled into every corner. Alex barely spoke to me, and when he did, his words were short and hollow, as if he was just going through the motions. It was as if he had built a wall between us, and I couldn't find a way through it. The small gestures that used to make me feel loved and safe had disappeared. He no longer reached for my hand as we passed each other, and his usual soft smile was nowhere to be seen. He wouldn't look me in the eye, and when he did, there was a sadness in his gaze that pierced me. Dinner became a painfully quiet ritual, the clinking of silverware the only sound breaking the heavy silence. I would try to start a conversation, but he would just nod or give one-word answers. His face closed off. Every room in the house felt different now. The living room, once filled with laughter and warmth, now seemed lifeless. The kitchen, where we used to share coffee in the mornings, felt cold and empty. Even our bedroom, the place that had once been our refuge, now felt like a stranger's room, with an invisible line drawn down the middle. Our marriage felt like it was hanging by a thin thread, ready to snap at any moment. I was terrified that I had destroyed something precious, something I might never be able to fix. One night of weakness had created a deep crack between us, a rift that seemed impossible to mend. It was as if I had shattered a beautiful vase, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't piece it back together. Now, each day serves as a painful reminder of what I've lost. I walk through the house, haunted by memories of what used to be. His laughter, the feeling of his arms around me, the way we would talk for hours without running out of things to say. Those moments feel like they belong to someone else now, like they happened in a different life. I am left clinging to the faint hope, as slim as it may be, that one day Alex might find it in his heart to forgive me. But every passing day makes that hope feel a little more distant.